Did you know that one of the greatest nuclear disasters in the world is currently unfolding and the media isn't even reporting on it? I'm here to tell you today that nuclear power is extremely dangerous and its use should be regulated much more stringently. As an engineer and concerned citizen of planet Earth, I personally know the dangers of a nuclear reactor and its potential effect on humanity. I'm going to tell you about 3 disasters in the field of nuclear power and the effect they've had on the world as we know it. These 3 disasters are 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, and Fukushima. 3 Mile Island was an extremely close call. The incident itself could have been much worse and was mainly caused by human error. The accident began at 4 a.m. on Wednesday, March 28, 1979, with failures in the non-nuclear secondary system, followed by a stuck-open pilot-operated relief valve, or PORV, in the primary system, which allowed large amounts of nuclear reactor coolant to escape. The mechanical failures were compounded by the initial failure of plant operators to recognize the situation as a loss of coolant accident due to inadequate training and human factors. This information from Wikipedia's page 3 Mile Island accident. The loss of coolant led to a partial reactor meltdown. However, the system was safely shut down before a total meltdown occurred. In this case, the east coast of the United States was very lucky, as a full meltdown would have caused hundreds of thousands of people to be relocated, considering the reactor was in eastern Pennsylvania. Yes, that means us. This incident was stopped, but had it not been, it would have looked something like Chernobyl. The Chernobyl disaster will probably always remain in history books as the worst nuclear power incident of all time. The battle to contain the contamination and avert a greater catastrophe ultimately involved over 500,000 workers and cost an estimated 18 billion rubles. The official Soviet casualty count of 31 deaths has been disputed, and long-term effects such as cancers and deformities are still being accounted for. This information from Wikipedia's page, The Chernobyl Disaster. The cause of this disaster, again, was human error. Instead of doing a regularly scheduled stress test of the reactor in the daytime with a fully trained and capable crew, the test was performed without permission by the night crew. The reactor was powered up to almost maximum capacity by entirely removing the control rods, which inhibit the nuclear reactions, from the reactor. Then, when the staff saw the power levels getting entirely out of control, they tried to reinsert the control rods. Because these rods were tipped with graphite, a material that speeds up nuclear reactions, the reactor critically overheated, cracked the reactor casing, locked the control rods out, and began to heat up out of control. This caused an explosion in the cooling system as water was flash boiled into steam, erupting pipes and blowing the building and still running reactor apart. Because of the questionable ethics of the Soviet Union, the disaster was only reported when radiation alarms in Sweden began to go off. The highest classification for a nuclear disaster is level 7, of which Chernobyl is one of the 2. The second one is Fukushima. Fukushima is the only disaster I'm speaking about today that can't entirely be attributed to human error. The Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster was a series of equipment failures, nuclear meltdowns, and releases of radioactive materials at the Fukushima nuclear power plant following the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami on March 11, 2011. This information from the Wikipedia page Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster. Because of the effects of the tsunami and earthquake on the complex, all 4 reactors were damaged, 2 of which began to explode due to hydrogen-air mixtures expanding rapidly due to a cooling failure. The explosions killed no one. However, this is not the problem. Fukushima is located directly on the Pacific Ocean. In a stunning display of idiocy, cowardice, and disregard for human safety, TEPCO, the company in charge of the reactor, withheld the information that the reactor is currently leaking radiation into the Pacific Ocean. How much radiation, you ask? Between 20 and 40 trillion becquerels of radioactive tritium is being dumped into the water supply around Fukushima. And if a company as big as TEPCO is hiding information from us, what could happen if smaller companies were in charge of reactors? In summary, I'm speaking to you today about 3 nuclear disasters, 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, and Fukushima, that could have been avoided with better disaster planning and more human intuition. If we don't heed these obvious warnings, who knows when the next Chernobyl could occur? Could it be a million miles away? Or in your backyard?